Welcome to the Blueprint. My name is Joanne Fair, and last week I brought to you the discipline of study. This week we're going to be talking about the discipline of solitude. Just being quiet. Just being quiet before God. The discipline of silence or solitude is the voluntary and temporary abstention from speaking. We're just not going to have anything to say today. We're going to spend our day listening. Why? We're doing this so that we can hear from God. Now, while we are in our discipline of silence, we could be reading, we could be writing, we could be in prayer. But with this discipline, there's no outward speaking. And these are internal dialogues that you're going to be having with yourself and God. And this could be called also an outward silence. Now, this is something that is so antithetical to what we know as human beings. We are always talking. Somebody is always talking. There's music going, there's a television is on, our phones are beeping, people sending us text messages. There's always something going on that is preventing us from being at peace. Some of us don't even know how to be silent. Do you know that you don't always have to tell people what your opinion is of something? Sometimes you can just be quiet. Sometimes we are in groups and somebody may, and the facilitator may ask a question. And we are so uncomfortable with silence, we call it an uncomfortable silence, because we don't expect to have an absence of noise. We are so used to it. So it is voluntarily and temporarily withdrawing privacy for spiritual purposes. This time can last for a few minutes or for a few days. I know that there are times that I have traveled, and I travel alone sometimes, and those are the times that I really hear from God. I also hear from God when I'm on an airplane, traveling by myself. There's nobody to talk to, and it's just me and God. And that's when I will take out my pad and I will begin to write things. I will begin to write what I think God is trying to tell me. But He is so tired of fighting with us for time so that we can get instruction for Him. We are just going about our days, not focusing and doing what we think is right when God definitely has a plan for our lives. So why should we practice the discipline of silence or solitude? Well, number one, we do it to follow the example of Jesus. Several passages in the Bible talk about where Jesus went away by himself just to pray, just to think. With everything that was on him. Every time he hit a town, the crowd heard that he was coming and they were encircling him. Everyone wants prayer, everyone wants healing. And when he was done, he would go away somewhere to pray. I have a couple of examples of that. In Matthew 4:1, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And the primary purpose of this event was for Jesus to receive and conquer Satan's temptations. Still, we note that the Holy Spirit led Jesus to experience this encounter during a lengthy period of fasting and solitude. So while Jesus was in the desert and he was fasting, he had solitude, and in his worst time, then the enemy came to him to tempt him. But what was he getting when he was out there in the desert? God was talking to him. God was downloading information to him. God was confirming his mission here on this earth. And Jesus heard it during the moment of silence in the desert when he was alone. In Matthew 14:23, it says, after he, Jesus, had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone. He sent both the seeking multitudes and his disciples away so he could be alone with the Father, because he recognized the importance of this time. And how often do we allow for that time to happen in our lives? Matthew, the last one, Matthew 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up and left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. The previous verses tell us that after dark, the whole city gathered at the door of the house where Jesus was staying. There he healed many people and cast out demons. But before it was daylight again, he went to spend time alone in prayer. Jesus is our model for life, and this is the type of lifestyle that we should be leading. Not that we need to go to the desert, but there should be some time where it's just you and God, where you shut off everything, and if you are interested in growth, in spiritual growth, in hearing about God's direction for your life, this is one way to accomplish it. But it goes, again, like I said before, it goes against everything that we understand about being in this world. We have to be connected. I have my phone popping off with text messages. The same text message comes on my watch and it comes on my iPad. That's really overkill. Do I really need all of that? I really don't, but I have it anyway. So I'm never alone. People always have access to me, and that's the problem. There should be a time where nobody should have access to me because it's me and Jesus having a conversation. But this is the discipline of planning times where you have this time with God and it's just you and God so that you can hear his voice. So why should we do it? The first reason was to follow the example of Jesus. The second reason is so I can hear the word of God better. In 1 Kings 19-13, Elijah going to Mount Horeb where he heard the gentle whisper of God's voice. Not a scream, but a whisper. And God will just drop things into your spirit in that manner. Habakkuk 2:1, Habakkuk standing on the guard post and keeping watch to see what God would say to him. In Galatians 1:17, Paul going away to Arabia after his conversion so he could be alone with God. And look at Paul. Paul was the Jew of all Jews. He had permission from the synagogue to find Christians and throw them in the jail or kill them. And when he had his encounter on the road of Damascus with Jesus Christ, after he got hands laid on him, he went off for, I don't know how many years he was gone, but he went off to Arabia. And what do you think was happening while he was there? God was letting him know about the work that he had to do. God was changing his mind. God was conforming him to what God wanted him to be. And then he comes back and as the most prolific writer in the New Testament. And that happened because he spent time alone with God. So we have to understand that it worked for them then, and this method works for us now. The next reason why we should practice solitude is to express worship to God. So the worship of God does not always have to be with our mouths being open and us saying something. Sometimes it is just a quiet. The word says to be still and know that I am God. Just be still and become aware of his presence around you. Just be quiet and listen. And you can feel the Spirit of God getting louder and louder as you are getting quieter and quieter. Habakkuk 2:20 says this, but the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all earth be silent before him. Zephaniah 1:7 says to be silent before the Lord. Habakkuk 2:20, but the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all earth be silent before him. So we worship God in our silence. We don't always have to say something. Just sitting down and just closing your eyes and focusing and meditating on who God is a worship of him. You're saying that everything that I have to do, Lord, everything that's in my day, everything that's on my plate, I'm going to put it to the side. And I'm just going to sit with you. And I'm just going to listen to what you have to say. That is worship. You're telling him that he is most important in your life. You're telling him that nothing else that's going on is as important as what he wants to tell you. That's what you're telling God. We want to express our faith in God through solitude. So it is twice in Psalm 62, David displayed this type of faith. In verses 1 and 2, he says this, for God alone, my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation. I shall not be greatly shaken. And then in verse 5 and 6, he says again, for God alone, O my soul, I wait in silence, for my hope is from him. I will not be shaken. So this is the faith that David sought while he sat in silence before God. Just recognizing who God is, recognizing that God is for him and on his side. And so David decides to just sit in faith and show his faith in God by his silence. You want to seek the salvation of the Lord, and this can be for non-believers and believers. It could be for a non-believer that's seeking to understand who God is. Maybe he doesn't know. For him to sit in silence and ask God who he is, God is going to reveal himself to him. And it also could be for believers who are seeking God for certain circumstances. Things are going on in your life. You're in trouble. Things are happening. You're seeking the salvation of God or the help from God as you sit in silence and just wait for God to speak to you. Silence could also be used to be physically restored. You know, you're tired. You know, you're run down. You've been running constantly. You're exhausted. You need some time. You need to shut it down and be quiet before the Lord and let him fill you up. Let him renew your spirit. Let him renew your strength. He can restore you. Go off somewhere quiet, even if it's a hike, even if you just go for a walk every day. That can be your time of silence and solitude. You want to regain a spiritual perspective, perhaps. In Luke 1:20, it says this, but behold, you will be mute and not be able to speak until the day these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their own time. And he's referring to Zechariah, when the angel came to Zechariah and told him that his wife Elizabeth would have a baby. He didn't believe it. And so they would not allow him to talk. He was not able to talk until the baby was born. So can you imagine the knowledge that Zechariah learned while he was being quiet? I'm sure he never doubted God again. But it was during God needed to shut him down so that he can have faith and he can believe what was happening here. You want to seek the will of God, sometimes in silence. You know, you want to discern his will about a matter. Maybe there's a career choice coming on. Maybe, you deciding what school to go to. You know, maybe should I marry him? Should I marry her? Some time before God will give you the understanding and the revelation about what you should do. When you're not going to God, talking, running your mouth about what you want, you sit and listen to what he has to tell you. You might want to learn control of your tongue, because the tongue is a big deal. People talk constantly. I had a phone call with a lady on Sunday night. This lady talked for 30 minutes without taking a breath before I could even get a word in edgewise. She's just talking. And so then when I began to open up my mouth and counsel her about what she was talking to me about, she said, no, I understand that. She says, I'm too advanced. I understand that. Well, she couldn't stop talking enough to hear what God was trying to tell her. And it did her a disservice. So learning how to train our tongues to be quiet for a while is a good discipline. It is something for us to learn. To learn how to, as Christians, to better control your tongue. Our tongues get us into trouble. We speak too quickly. We say things too fast. We speak on things that we should not be speaking. So just for the exercise of being silent, it's something that we need to understand. Proverbs 17:28 says this. It says that whoever restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. Well, that is just everything about telling us to be quiet. And no matter how much I think I know, I always walk in humility, and I always give God an opportunity to correct me. Because you could be talking about something and you can be so wrong about it and you don't even know. So always approach conversations with humility. You know, when you are talking to someone, is it something that you should say? Is it really? Is it necessary for the moment? Is it something that's going to bring somebody down, or is what you're saying going to be something that's going to build somebody up? So understanding control of the tongue is critical in this Christian walk. Even in Ecclesiastes, it talks about there's a time to speak and a time to be quiet. A time to speak and a time to be quiet. So, you know, understanding how to control your tongue is critical if we want to be successful in this walk. If you want to practice this spiritual discipline, you know, you need to, like any discipline, have a plan. What is your plan? You know, you can do this once a day. You can do this on the weekends. You can do something bigger once a month where you are really not talking for a period of time. So you can call it like a minute retreat where, you know, for 60 minutes, I'm just not going to talk about anything. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm not going to have my phone. I'm not going to have the TV on. I'm not going to have any music playing. I'm just going to be quiet. It is the beginning of training your tongue of when to speak, because we as Christians are supposed to be the moderate people. You know, we see people all the time, either they're way up high or they're way down low. You know, and you never know what you're going to get with people in their mood. But as Christians, we should be the ones that are moderate. And if we cannot control our tongues, there's other areas in your life that you are also not controlling. So you need to begin to practice this time of not saying anything. That's why Jesus practiced solitude. This is why he went away, to get away from the people. And you can't tell me you were more busy than Jesus Christ, because everybody wanted to get on Jesus Christ's calendar. Everybody wanted to touch him. Everybody wanted to talk to him. So if you are going crazy because of the people in your life, well, you are no more busy. The stuff you got going on was definitely not as important as the stuff Jesus had going on. So if he could get away, you can get away too. But it always goes down to what you value as important for your life. If you are really searching to improve the walk you have with the Lord, you will invest time in these types of disciplines. So we need to learn how to be alone. How do we do it? Some of us have not been alone. I do good being alone, you know, but I think my being alone comes from a practice of being a loner, which I'm not anymore. You know, I used to spend a lot of time alone because I didn't want to be around a lot of people. I didn't really care for people that much. But it's a difference in practicing the solitude for the sake of hearing from God than to practice the solitude for the sake of getting away from the people. There is a difference. So we have to learn how to be alone. So you can start to practice by going home. How about not turning on the television? Just don't turn it on. Driving around in your car without the music playing. Going to sleep without the TV or the iPad being in your face. And we do that because we're trying to shut down the noise in our head. The enemy's talking to us. We don't want to hear what he has to say. So we fill our life up with these distractions so that we don't have to listen to him. But we don't do it the correct way. We need to shut down the distractions, and then God can speak to us, and the enemy's voice will get softer and softer till we can't really hear it. But we have to recognize the distractions in our life. This can go from having 6 kids at home and a husband, and you're the mother, and perhaps you have a job too. But there has to be a time that you can pull away. When my children were little, I was married, and, you know, I would get up early in the morning before everybody else got up. And that's when I would have my solitude. If it's important to you, you will find the time to do it. So you have to remove all of the distractions. And then when you are in your time of solitude, you know, how are you going to pray? You're going to give everything that's going on in your life. That's when you give it to the Lord. I'm silent. Lord, I'm laying this down before you. I'm laying this job down before you. I'm laying this husband down before you. I'm laying these children down before you. What do you have to say? I'm shutting it down, Lord God, so I can hear from you. So you can let me know how I am doing. I'm going to contemplate on my life, and I'm going to listen to you. But during this time of solitude, with a lot of these disciplines I'm going to tell you about, sometimes they overlap. Meditation and solitude go together. Meditation, solitude, and prayer also goes together. We haven't talked about prayer yet. But in your time of solitude, you can pray. You're talking to God. You are focusing on God. You are listening for God. You're listening to what He has to say to you. You are building a time of restoration. I've let this world and the noise in this world get to me so much so that I need some downtime. And I need you to restore me. I need you to fill me up so I can go back and I can walk and do the things in this kingdom that you have commanded me to do. But it's a time of building up. I don't mind being by myself. Some people have a hard time. My sister tells me, I don't know how you go to the movies by yourself, Joanne. Easily. I don't need to talk to anybody, But again, I told you that practice didn't come from a good place. That practice came from a place of shutting everybody out. I wasn't seeking God when I was being alone. But now I'm looking at life. When I'm by myself, if I'm taking a walk, I'm looking at the trees. I'm looking at the sky. I'm praising God for His creation. I'm thinking about how blessed I am, to be able to be alive during this time. I'm so grateful that God talks to me. So when you're practicing your solitude, you're contemplating the goodness of God. That's what you're doing. And you have to work to reset your mind, you have to actively lay this other stuff down because it will impact on your communication that you are having with God. So you have to develop rhythms of solitude. It won't come naturally. You have to be diligent. It needs to be something that is calendared in your calendar. This day is the day for solitude. No appointments, no calls, nothing going on. I'm just me and God, and I'm looking forward to it. When I was working, every 3 months, I would take a week off. If not a week, a really long weekend, maybe like a Thursday to a Monday. And I did that to reset myself to go back to that stressful job that I had. But when I did it, I wasn't focusing on God, So I would get away. I would, I would do everything else. I just wasn't going to work, and I would, kind of recover from the job a bit. And then I'd go back and step right back into the chaos that I was in when I took that long weekend. But had I known what I know now, I would have spent that time in prayer. I would have spent that time asking God to help me function in this job in a way that it wasn't tearing down my spirit. That's what I would have done then, but I didn't understand that. So you are blessed to hear this information now because you still have time. If you're on a job and it's bothering you when you take time off, spend the time with the Lord and don't spend the time, like going on a vacation and getting high or drinking the entire time, spend some time focusing on God. What does He want? Get the restoration from Him, okay? So you can do this, I said, you can do it every day. People that walk their dogs, you can do it while you're walking your dog. Instead of having the earbuds in your ear, just be silent. Think about the things of God, and God will restore you and refresh you. And by the time you and little Fido get back to the house, you would have a new attitude. You should build up some time, where you're taking more than one morning. Maybe you're going to take a weekend, and then build up some time where you have a real retreat somewhere, where you go somewhere, and it's just you and God. And you will come back feeling refreshed. So understanding what this solitude does for you is the discipline in itself. To spend some time with God, contemplating what He's done for you, and then listening how He can make your life better. It is a discipline that is worth the effort, I guarantee you. Well, that's all I have for you for this episode. I will see you next week with the blueprint. Bye-bye. You can follow along on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all these channels. I cannot wait to see you then. Bye-bye.